Welcome to Zoo Nation, where we inform you about history as it happens and comment on current politics. My name is Josh.
I'm Nathan.
And we're here to talk to you the big headline Biden speech on September the 1st of 2022. And I've got notes written down. What we've been talking about it. Again, we've got clips about it where we're joking about it as well. The big thing that caught my attention first was how Twitter just erupted. I went onto Twitter. I had to. Big mistake. And hashtag, we didn't even talk about this off camera, hashtag Dark Biden was trending. And I was like, what? But then when I actually watched the speech later, because I had just gotten off work, I went on Twitter before watching the speech. I realized, oh, well, you can barely see Old Glory. You can see the Marines behind him, but it's just not well lit at all. And that's why they're calling him Dark Biden. And to be honest with you, as I was looking at it, the tweets, I should say, not comments, that I was looking at were very positive. It was from the blue checks who are saying, I love the hashtag Dark Biden. Look at his wonderful speech. Basically, it was almost like using it like a superhero name. Like, he's our hero going forth to protect us. And we're glad we have hashtag Dark Biden calling it like it is and things like that. But hashtag Dark Biden, from what I also have followed, is also being used pejoratively by people like, what is this hashtag? What is this Dark Biden? Like, why is he in the shadows giving an impassioned speech? So what is this lighting choice? And so he begins the speech with what we are facing is not normal and starts talking about, and this is something we talk about off China as well.
He talked about China, right?
No, sir. No, he would never call out his puppet master.
Talk about inflation?
No.
Oh.
He would also never call out his puppet master.
I thought I heard him say, oh, no, I didn't. I never heard him say inflation.
No. Gas price, no.
No? Crime?
No.
No.
Hunter, no.
No. Absolutely
Definitely.
Not. He knows nothing about that anyway. So.
Definitely. Well, that's true. He's not thinking about it.
Yeah. Oh, man.
He doesn't remember. So anyway, he talks about what we are facing is not normal. And then almost immediately, Donald Trump and MAGA Republicans represent extremism. And it's like, there's an amazing line in the Robin Hood, Errol Flynn movie where he said, it's got to be a crime to love your country. It's got to be a crime to want justice. It's got to be a crime in your book, because basically they're throwing the book at Robin Hood and he says, okay, you're missing a few counts. I love my country. I'm loyal to the king, and I haven't bought into what all King John and the Sheriff of Nottingham are doing.
Right.
And to me, that's how it feels. It's like, if this is a crime, then a lot of people are guilty. You know what I mean? If this is your definition of being an extremist, it's kind of like when Facebook, that's just another thing I thought of, when Facebook had, have you been exposed to extremism? You were not on Facebook all the time, but people were getting notifications on Facebook saying, Josh, you may have been exposed to extremist content. Click here to read about extremist content on social media. And then people started making fun of it and getting like the profile picture ring and saying exposing friends to extremist content. It was pretty hilarious. But he talks about this, and he says, then another thing that Biden said, this is interesting, said, I've been able to work with mainline Republicans, which tells you more about the Republicans that are mainline than it does about the MAGA Republicans.
So what do you think he means by mainline?
He didn't necessarily name names, I don't think, did he? I don't remember him naming names.
I don't think he did, but my suspicion is they want the Bush Republicans back.
Yep.
That's my suspicion.
Which is funny how much they hated him while he was president.
Well, they hate it. Well, they're always going to hate Republicans, sure. But you can at least get Bush Republicans to move and more, or not move, like move away as far as they're the rhinos of the day.
Do you know why? It's because they're useless. That's why
they are useless.
That's why you can get them to move.
And you know, the MAGA Republicans, or just the Republicans with a backbone, as I'd like to say. The Republicans with a backbone just won't move and actually stand for something. You know, they basically are like the Tea Party movement. You know, they actually stand for things. This is what we stand for. This is what we want. We want secure borders. Insert what we want here. You know, whereas the Bush Republicans are like, yeah, whatever the Dems are doing, that's fine.
Well, either that's fine, or, well, if you want $22 trillion spent, we'll spend only 20.
Right.
So
exactly.
So thank us for our service, because we've saved you from the Democrats.
Exactly.
That kind of thing as well.
So
to me, I want to know names, number one, because other than, and the thing is,
Lindsey Graham.
Right, well, that's one. You're right. that man, it was the kindest person that God ever created. That's what Lindsey Graham said about Joe Biden, that Joe Biden was the nicest man that God ever created. Now, he didn't say that about President Biden. He said it about then Senator Joe Biden, and also actually about Vice President Biden as well. Look into it. Lindsey Graham praised him. So yeah, that's who is representing our area of South Carolina. So I'm just happy and thrilled about that. Except not really.
We've been thrilled for how long?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Man, he hasn't showed any emotion, I don't think, since he defended Kavanaugh, and even then, that was such a bare bones basic thing he should have done. Yeah. He gets not even credibility for that.
You only notice he does this stuff when like his numbers are like going down.
Yeah, and also when election day is getting closer.
Exactly.
When election day is getting closer, he's like, got to make everyone think I'm conservative.
Yep.
So there's that, and so we've got that problem going on. But the other people I can think of is, even though he's not a senator, John Kasich and his ilk. Again, John Kasich was like a governor of Cleveland, a governor of Ohio, I think mayor of Cleveland at one point, though. And so you got people of his ilk. Even though he's not in the Senate, he's not in the House.
Oh, yeah.
It's people of his ilk. People that were, like, he was the last person to actually drop out when he was running against Trump. In fact, I don't think he necessarily dropped out. He just lost the primary. He just lost because Trump got everything else.
Right. Yep.
So all that to say, people like that, people like the Jeb Bushes, people like, you mentioned George, which is, again, I was just noting, George Bush was hated by the left when he was in office, but now he's going on Jimmy Kimmel's show, and they're laughing up a storm about, impressions and Bushisms.
Because they want those Republicans back.
Sure.
They want the Republicans where it's like, hey, move over, we run the show, you guys just shut up. That's what they want back.
And we'll pat your head when you're a good little Republican.
Right, exactly. And people would say, well, Republicans just want Democrats to, do what they want. I mean, kind of, because our way's a little better. But no, at the same time, we are at least willing to, like, let you speak. We're not going to agree, I can tell you, with majority, probably I'd be willing to say 90% of what the Democrats say we're not going to agree with, so we're not going to be able to find common ground, but we'll hear you out, because that's what we believe, Yeah, you should be able to speak your mind, but the Republicans don't want that, and so the Bush Republicans never did that. That's why they like them, because that's what they want. They don't want a backbone on the Republican side.
Right. And when I think about calling them out that early in the speech, this is one thing that I've noticed with, the funny thing is, we were even talking about this off air, he's been out of office since January the 23rd was his first full day out of 2021. And the times that he's been mentioned, and here's the thing, even when Donald Trump is not mentioned, the previous administration as well, who ran that, Donald Trump, he's mentioned all the time, not only by the president, but also so many other people in media, so many other people
the White House press secretary.
Yes, the alternative media that's online, like the Young Turks, Hassan Piker, Secular Talk, Kyle Kalinske, is just mentioned all the time. And the leftist podcasters, actors, quite frankly, Hollywood, things like that is just mentioned all the time. Oh my goodness. So that's but see, they're unable to stop talking about him. And one thing that I've been thinking about overall, this is kind of an overarching theme, is that the Democrats are completely shooting themselves in the foot because, and I've been telling people this all the time, the past few days especially, because of the speech and other things as well.
Oh, yeah, of course.
What they are doing is, running the country horribly, horrible gas prices, horrible treating of the culture, things like that. We're going to do critical race theory. You can't do anything about that. And also, if you do things to stop being trans friendly, we're going to call it the Don't Say Gay bill. Like, horrible culture war causes. That's A, but also just running the country horribly. B, not leaving the former president alone, 45. And C, demonizing his supporters all the time. And what they're doing is chasing the supporters of him and other people into his arms. And it's not going to work out for him very well. It's kind of like the Dr. Phil show. Okay, how's that working out for you?
Yeah.
Not well. So when the FBI raid, for example, this is connected but not part of the speech, happened, the number of Republicans that want Trump to run again went up. Because there's a number of Republicans that are like, you know what, DeSantis looks pretty good. You know what, who knows, maybe a younger guy, someone besides DeSantis even, or someone also just generally younger than Trump, 75 now. Someone else would be good. But now people are like, you know what? This guy's clearly a threat to the establishment. Maybe he should. So it's backfiring in their face is the problem. And so if they were to they could have taken the reins and said, okay, let's not really change much. We might do some things about environmental regulation, but let's really leave most of this alone. We've not got that. We've got a watered down, we didn't even talk about this off air, a watered down version of Build Back Better that Kirsten Sinema and Joe Manchin voted to pass. They came along with the ride. I want to see the list of Republicans that came along for the ride on that one. I would, because they got to go. They got to go. I'm sure they're on their way out, but they got to go. But here's the thing. We've said
that before, though.
We have. And the pendulum is swinging the other way with Liz Cheney just getting destroyed in her primary.
But she's better than Abraham Lincoln.
That's true. That's true. That's true. And she's also going to save us from the evil white supremacists. So, because she's just brilliant. She's
the white person is going to save you from the evil white supremacists. Crazy.
Yes. Amazing how that works, isn't it? Right. So, anyway, the logic there is astounding. I mean, it goes over my head, and I'm 6'8", nothing goes over my head. So.
Yeah. Right.
So the thing to consider with all this talk of demonizing these supporters is, okay, Joe, you were supposed to be, again, I don't know if anyone even believed this, but the theory was Biden's being elected as the unifier. He's going to, he and Obama were both like this. I'm not going to see red states and blue states. I'm going to see the United States. Well, you've done a horrible job of that because you've done nothing but demonize these supporters. And he'll do a little caveat of, he even says this in the speech, I'm not talking about the conservatives. There's conservatives out there that are Republicans that I'm fine with. The mainline Republicans are going along with me. It's the either they're like we call them rhinos established.
Mainline Republicans maybe in Congress maybe, but mainline Republicans as in the nation, no.
They are the MAGA Republicans.
You know. See, I don't even know if the MAGA Republican. I would say MAGA Republicans probably make up about 30% of the Republican voter base, in my opinion. Like I'm talking hardcore. Now, obviously, a lot of the people, if we're talking about all the people that voted for, Trump as MAGA Republicans, but I'm talking like these hardcore,
people that even in like the first primary in 2016, voted for him, and have supported him since then.
Right, exactly. I'd say that's about a 30% probably of the Republican base, whereas the others are like, we like that idea of like, that's what we want, but we're not like, yay Trump or what, et cetera,
Maybe voted for a Rand Paul, maybe voted for...
Right, exactly. Like, we know what we want, but it's not a... Kind of, to an extent, a moderate, but they're not Democrat leaning.
Well, maybe there's that, but also just different ideas of of how to run things. Like even within the Republican Party, this is interesting. This is actually getting bigger now. We didn't even talk about this off air. There's an interesting wing of libertarian thought that is entering in. There's also an interesting wing of neoconservative, but also paleoconservatism, which is like that really, really, really old school conservatism. Yeah. And then that more neoconservative, which is more like post-Ronald Reagan, more like, you mentioned the Bush Republicans, kind of like that. Yeah. I think of like a Sean Hannity, maybe a little bit of a Newt Gingrich in that one. Exactly. Versus really old thought like Pat Buchanan. Yeah. Anyway, moving back to the political labeling of you're an extremist, he talks about he's been able to work with these mainline Republicans, and then he follows this up with MAGA Republicans do not respect the Constitution, which, before we move on, what is that about? Like, what MAGA Republican has been like, you know what, this constitutional thing just isn't working out for us?
January 6th, man.
I guess.
That doesn't tell you that they don't respect the Constitution?
Yeah,
even though January 6th isn't in the Constitution anyway, so that doesn't even tell you if you respect the Constitution or not.
Correct.
Technically. I'm not saying it was right.
And don't
YouTube bans us.
And we didn't see, Josh Hawley being like, let's get out there and run.
Exactly. I mean, they're changing words again. They do this with everything, again, the don't say gay bill, that's not what that said.
Transphobic.
All this stuff is just changing the rhetoric or changing history per se, whatever you want to say. It's just changing everything. So they're telling you a story, and it's basically treating you like you're a child and you don't know what you know what you're actually listening to. Is mom and
from-
dad telling me a lie, or is they telling me a story here, a fantasy story? Like, I mean, they're making their reality.
Yep.
You know, and honestly, I believe that they believe this.
Sure.
You know, but to say that the MAGA Republicans, or just even Republicans in general, don't care about the Constitution, I would argue that the Republicans of all people care more about the Constitution, like especially myself, care more about the Constitution than anything.
Sure.
So versus a lot of Democrats that I
Right.
personally talk to, they don't really care about the Constitution, what it says. In fact, they want to get rid of it. So if you want to get rid of it, you definitely really don't care about it. If you want to change it, you know, we have laws that allow you to do that. So, you know, hey, that's technically constitutional. But
And really, that's what I hear more of. I don't hear a ton from the left of we're going to get rid of it. It's more like, well, we're going to co-opt it and we're going to add to it and we're going to basically ignore it. There's not a whole lot of talk of getting rid of it. It's more just ignoring it.
So you've never heard the talks of making a new constitution, that the constitution's outdated, et cetera, et cetera?
I've heard the argument of Constitution being outdated, but I haven't heard of overtly getting rid of it.
Right.
I guess what you're saying is that is the underlying thought. If you
Yeah.
say it's outdated, then
What's your alternative?
Right.
Coming up with something new.
right,
Yeah.
whatever it is.
Right, yeah.
So I am following with you on that.
Yeah,
but, and then secondly, so that was where I was actually going to go next was, well, number one, yes, the MAGA Republicans do. And number two, who are you to talk? Because you surely don't take care about it. And secondly, he says, so they don't care about the Constitution. They don't believe in the rule of law or respect the will of the people. Now, this is such an interesting concept that we could actually maybe delve into a little bit. The concept of we the people is tricky because it always applies to, well, what people are you talking about?
Yeah.
Because you and I agree on a ton, but there's things we also don't agree
yeah,
on.
100%.
So when we say, like, if there's a sense of, if I'm talking about the two of us, we believe, well, there's certain things that we agree on that we do believe, but if I were to talk about some esoteric point of like completely unregulated capitalism that you may not go for, then it'd be weird for me to say Nathan and I believe that, we believe that. You might be like, well, no, it
No,
depends
you
on
believe that.
yeah, so that's the problem with that's another problem. And by the way, this is a bipartisan issue. People say we the people want Trump. Well, it's like, well, certain people do and other people do not.
The majority.
Right. It's one thing to say that, but then it just needs to be the majority. When you say we the people, it's like you get into this weird collectivist language of who are you talking about and why are you saying it now? I understand how the founding fathers meant it in the preamble to the Constitution.
Oh, yeah.
They were saying the people have elected through their representatives, and they have decided to enable and allow us to set this government up.
Right.
So that I can understand. And representation is another thing to even get into in another part.
Right, yeah.
But I can understand that more than the way we the people is used now.
Yeah.
So to say that they don't really believe in the will of the people is like, well, if it comes to the will of the people meaning Joe Biden and Nancy Pelosi, Kamala Harris, and you go all the way all the way down the line.
Yeah.
You want to go towards what the Young Turks believe, although they disagree with Biden on some points. They agree with them more than they disagree with them. Do I disagree with the will of those people? Not only yes, but heck yes. But when it comes to tearing apart, whatever you want to call it, society, our country, which is how he meant it, no. The other thing, you talk about the rule of law, which party, just remind me, who also, not only which party, who bailed out rioters? Who successfully bailed out Black Lives Matter rioters and basically said that they were unsafe in jail and paid for bail, and actually is now the current vice president? That would be Kamala.
Trump, right?
No, it was not Trump.
It was Pence.
No.
Oh.
No.
Obama?
No.
I guess.
Kamala Harris.
Really? Okay.
Yes. Yes. Okay. So that was who did that. And so when you hear about rule of law, who are you to talk about respect for rule of law first and foremost? And secondly, I hear from the figures like Trump all the time, law and order. So I don't see how subverting of law is done by these so-called MAGA Republicans. The other thing is they don't recognize the election. Now, here's an interesting thing we didn't even talk about yet, and I don't know if we've talked about it in an episode, is that the number of Republicans that actually think that there was, they just say a stolen election or fraud in the election of 2020 has actually gone up over time.
Yeah.
As some have been brought to life. The number was around half, maybe a little bit less around the time the election happened. It is now, according to Young Turks, Cenk Uygur, he ran this poll, 75%. So three-quarters, it has gone up. As people have thought about it more, as people have seen evidence, as people have watched things like the documentary 2000 Mules.
Yeah.
So, to me, is there an aspect of truth if they don't recognize the election? Yeah, kind of. They recognize
it was fraud.
Right. They recognize it was fraud. They recognize it also, but they do also recognize that you're the president, meaning Biden.
Right.
So in a way, they kind of do. They question the morality of what just happened.
Right, of course.
But they're not living like, now some probably actually are. I have seen things like Trump is still my president, but most of them are not doing that. Most of them are saying, you know what, you're the president, but we're not happy about it.
You're in the seat, but we're not happy. Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
That's what I see.
That's completely okay. I mean, I'm the same way. You're in the seat. I don't agree with it, and I also do think that there was some fraud. Now again, enough to overturn that within debate. I personally yes, but again, I respect the seat that he was placed in, regardless of rightfully or not. So, but again, I'm not going to be happy about it.
And there's no leg to stand on when for the 4 years between 2016 and 2020, it's been Russia got you in there.
Yeah.
Not my, literally chanting, not my president in the streets.
Right.
So now some people, to me, way less than that time now, saying Trump's still my president. I don't see it's comparable. I think that, we've got Mark Ruffalo and you've got all these big figures chanting in the streets, Trump is not a legitimate president, Trump is not my president, hashtag not my president trending on Twitter everywhere. Yep. I haven't seen anything like, maybe not even a tenth of that from the MAGA Republicans or whatever you want to call the general right. So all that to say, he talks about that the other thing the MAGA Republicans do is they empower election deniers to undermine our democracy. Now, to be an election denier, you basically have to say what Nathan just said, which is, look, I think some things went down where it may not have been proven, but I think it was enough to change the election. That already makes
or even
you
question it to be
right.
Like
that makes you an election denier. Not to say straight up, oh, Trump won or the election was stolen.
Right.
What you said is enough, or something weird happened.
Be in that class. Yeah,
right.
No,
you are an election denier. And
by his definitions, I'm automatically in this MAGA Republican.
Yes.
I'm 100%.
So far, yes, exactly. And
you're pretty close yourself.
I am. Yes. I am actually. I am there. I'm, it's not that I'm close. I am. Even though I don't love calling myself a Republican, I call myself a libertarian, but I'm kind of the Glenn Beckian style libertarian. I mean, or Larry Elder, I'm like a small L libertarian.
Well, even I say I'm a conservative libertarian. So
right. And I mean, I read thought, I read history, and that's my big thing.
100%.
So empowering election deniers to then undermine our democracy. Now, this is where we start getting into some problems, because it's like when you're talking to a crowd, to anyone, whether his supporters, meaning Biden supporters, or just the general left, or just America in general, and saying this group is undermining our democracy, we start going into some strange territory of saying, okay, you're pointing out a clear enemy, a clear political opponent that is a threat. And he actually did say in his speech, I don't know if you remember this, that someone whose name escapes me for the moment, someone that I frankly hadn't heard of, calling someone that was apparently called a Republican, calling the MAGA Republicans a clear and present danger. Now, when we're getting into, we can talk about Trump's inflammatory rhetoric. What Biden said, that they are empowering election deniers to undermine our democracy, and that they are a clear and present danger, that is inflammatory rhetoric.
Yep. And you're stepping in the waters of, or at least the shore of, Hitler-esque talk, in my opinion. You're dipping your toes into that type of water, because when you start calling threats and you start calling people possible enemies, or just, again, I'm not saying you're there, not saying Biden is Hitler or any, but no, I would raise the question, is this man a dictator, or is he starting to become a dictator? 100% I believe he is.
Okay.
But how far is he going to go with it? I don't know.
I don't think we can know.
No, yeah, exactly. Right, of course. Yeah, right. But it's definitely scary, you know.
It is.
But I do think that you're starting to put your toes into some Hitler or just dictator waters for sure, as far as, because what do you do with threats? What do you do with people that are enemies? Well, you try to exterminate them, imprison them, get rid of them as much as possible.
Weaken them.
Exactly. Weaken them, take away rights, do whatever you can. I mean, there's a lot of things that possibly come from that. Now, again, does it? Who knows? But history, what does history tell you? History says a lot of bad things happen, not just Hitler.
And I like what you just said about do whatever you can, because that's truly, and there's been people on all sides of this talking about, well, if you were someone that thought that some clear and present danger or some underminer of democracy was doing something, you would want to stop that, right? So he's basically, in a lot of ways, giving people a free pass and saying, look, these people, these MAGA Republicans are a danger, they're undermining of democracy, and it seems to give the blank check, so to speak, of do whatever you can to stop them. Now, the only thing I will say, to his credit, is he was very adamant that we should not have violence. That is a good thing, but that is such a basic thing to say. That's A. B, does he really mean that? Because whenever you've got the same guy a little over 2 years ago on a debate, not quite 2 years ago actually, because it was November of 2020, saying Antifa is an idea, I question whether you actually care about violence happening. When you've got someone that abandons Americans in Afghanistan, which we needed to get out of there, but in our own timetable, and in our own way, I question whether you really care about people dying or people getting hurt. To me, it's about agendas. You do care about it if it looks bad with January 6ers. You don't care about it if it's Antifa doing things. You justify it and excuse it, and that's what we saw from the mainline Democratic Party with the Summer of Love and George Floyd's riots as well.
And then the thing is are you saying you don't want violence on your side, such as, you know, Antifa? You don't want Antifa or BLM coming out right now doing things. Right now, what you're really trying to do, again, could be, I tend to think so, but what you're trying to do is just continue to push the buttons of the MAGA Republicans, the Republicans in general, just to prove your point of, like, see, they do cause issues. So, you know, I do believe that the Democrats, especially the Biden regime, I do believe that they are trying to, you know, turn the burner up until a group of people does something, and that gives them that gives them an excuse. Again, you know, do what's within your rights. You know, you want to go out on the streets and protest, do what's right. You know, don't go out and block traffic. You know, everything else like that. Don't, you know, But, you know, again, what's within your rights, you know, that's fine. But don't ever play into their hands of violence. Don't play into their hands of anything like that. So hopefully he's not encouraging violence. But I tend to believe that it's more of a on our side, don't do anything. Because we're going to control their, you know, we're pushing their buttons right now, which they are. I mean, they are definitely pushing the buttons of a lot of people. I mean, just the American people in general. It's not even necessarily the MAGA Republicans. It is people. It's independents. It is even Democrats that have said, what the heck?
I kind of, when I think about it, I just had the thought come into my mind that in a way, I think the people that are kind of leading the movement of the left are learning lessons. So they called Trump supporters deplorables. That backfired. That turned into, you call them deplorable, meaning that they're evil and bad. That's what they're to be deplored. They're wrong. They're bad people. That ended up being kind of a badge of honor. Like, we're the deplorables. We're Trump supporters. We're deplorables. That didn't work. And also it made the left look bad because Hillary Clinton called half of America the basket of deplorables. Now, she didn't literally say that, but she did say that.
Right, exactly.
She said she said half of Trump supporters were in the basket of deplorables.
Which is half of America at the time.
Well, half of Trump supporters.
Right. Well, yeah.
So she really like a quarter.
Yeah.
But what Trump supporter would she look at and say, yeah, you're okay? Nobody. No. She would say you're in the basket of deplorables.
Exactly.
So that didn't work. So now instead of Biden, I should say, saying all of you are bad, he said some of you are. And so number one, he calls them MAGA Republicans, but he also called Trump and the MAGA Republicans semi-fascist, which we haven't maybe mentioned yet.
I love that.
That was insane. I'm not shocked by. I say insane. I'm not shocked by it though. It's wrong. It's bad, and especially considering what movement, what group has their hands on the power, their hands on the reins, and then sick the FBI on the former president is pretty rich when you think about it. It's like Trump never did that. Imagine if that happened. Imagine if Comey got fired.
Yep.
Trump appoints the new replacement, and that replacement is like, all right, boys, we're going to Obama's house. We're gonna go tear things out of his house, knock on the door, and raid his house. Can you imagine what that would have looked like? I mean, here's the thing. You and I probably would have been like, what in the world?
Oh, yeah.
Why are you going to Obama's house and doing that? You better have a darn good reason.
Yeah, no, you need you better come up with a white whale on this.
Yes.
Like, I mean, that are even bigger than the white whale.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
leave Hillary Clinton out of this, by the way.
Yeah, right. Right. No, I mean, if there's something there, if there is, right, which I severely doubt because nothing has come up thus far. You know, again, I say thus far because who knows whatever happens, you know. In today's world, we never know. Yeah, you know, but no, if something comes up, it better be something big. For what you've done to a former president that you have never done before, ever, at least in recorded history,
Right.
has never been done. You better come up with something. And thus far, nothing's come up. Thus far, once again, making you look really stupid. And then, what's his name? Mayor Garland saying, how dare people question the FBI and everything. How dare people question the FBI when y'all have done some pretty bad things and have killed your credibility multiple times. Yeah, I don't see where people are wrong for that.
No.
Yeah. Also, back to your whole talking about semi-fascist. You know who coined the term fascist?
That would be Gianni Gentile, I believe.
Mussolini. Well, actually, yeah.
He taught Mussolini.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, but Mussolini, you know, made it popular, you know, as you were saying. But you know, so look at Mussolini. It was big government, ran the school systems, ran everything. When's the last time a fascist government wanted smaller government?
I don't know.
So, I seriously need somebody to explain to me.
Yes.
Like, I mean, I would legitimately love to have a conversation. Like, just a conversation. I wouldn't even, like, well, actually, not really a conversation. I would love to have, like, a whole, like, give somebody a whole hour who genuinely believes that the right are the fascists, and just let them teach me on how the right is the fascist. I wouldn't say a single thing to them.
And can prove it.
And can prove it.
Can prove it by looking at history and looking at the literal definition of fascism.
Exactly.
And say this, and now look at this person's policy, this person's belief.
Exactly.
And say this is proof.
Exactly. Because Trump wanted the power of the states. Trump wanted school choice. Trump, you know, there's lists and lists and lists of things that Trump, you know, said, no, that's not my job. You know, like, again, it wasn't.
And actually got criticized by some people.
Yeah,
like,
because, he should take care of X, Y, and Z. No, that's within the states, or that's within whatever. You know, that's not his job. And that is what the Republicans, or at least the majority of Republicans, want now. Not even just MAGA Republicans. They just want the government out of their lives. You know? So, I mean, again, the real fascist right now, and I don't even know if the real fascist right now is honestly the hard left Democratic Party. And there is no question in my mind that I personally do believe that 100% Biden is a fascist within himself. He is not. We're trying to play the word game and reverse what words mean once again. But no, the real fascist is the Biden regime. And I mean, because again, they're doing everything that a fascist does as far as making bigger government, controlling the schools, again, you're classified an enemy of the state in certain states if you question a school board.
Yep.
And I don't even care if you're questioning a school board on something I don't necessarily agree with.
Sure.
You as the parent have the right to question the school board.
Even if, let's say, hypothetically, there's a very, very conservative school board that has a very, very conservative school curriculum, and there's a liberal parent that is mad about it, we should never label that person a domestic terrorist
No, exactly.
or a threat.
Because they're not. That's acting within your rights. As long as you are acting within your rights, even if I disagree with your point and I think it's completely stupid or whatever, you can do that.
Yep.
Because again, within your rights. So a parent going and saying, "Hey, I found out that this is being taught to my child and why I don't really like it or whatever," or telling the school, "Hey, I think you're overstepping your bounds," that's within that parent's right.
Yep.
But we're turning into this thing of, no, the government runs your child. Because they're with us longer, which
Yep.
that's part of the problem.
Yep.
That is a big part of the problem within itself.
Agreed.
Big part of the problem is, one, they're with the school way too much and less with the parent. And even when they are with the parent, a lot of times these kids are with a device. That's a problem too. But again, that's a whole nother topic. But yeah, no. This Biden regime is just, they are the fascists. I'm sorry, that I would love for somebody that legitimately does believe that the MAGA people are fascist, or even just Republicans are fascist. I would listen. I mean, I'd listen.
Comment if you're out there. We want to hear it, and you can go ahead and comment on this, or go to the Facebook page or Instagram page and send messages to us. We're curious. We want to hear their thoughts. But the other thing that he talked about was, of course, if you're going to talk about Trump, if you're going to talk about the MAGA Republicans,
Right.
you've got to bring up January 6th. So of course, Biden brought up January 6th and talked about the January 6ers mob brutally attacked law enforcement that put a dagger at the throat of our democracy. Now, number one, I'm trying to think of people that were in law enforcement that got attacked. I know there's footage of them letting them in. There probably was some, at least, clashing. I don't know if anyone was brutally hurt.
Yeah.
I know that some law enforcement officers and some people, generally speaking...
Except for, didn't a law enforcement officer actually shoot one of the MAGA people?
Yes.
So, so it's kind of reverse, a lot of that could have been prevented for sure. But yeah, it's honestly the reverse of things.
Yeah,
if you think about it. But
and that they tried to nullify the votes, meaning these January 6ers.
Yeah, of course.
But also he's lumping in MAGA Republicans with this.
Yep.
Tried to nullify votes of 81 million people.
Yep.
Meaning the people that voted for Biden.
Yep.
Now, if more people voted for Biden than voted for Obama, and if Trump somehow gained more votes the second time but still lost, wow, that's an accomplishment that I think a lot of people like FDR, who won 4 terms, would be very impressed by. Like, wow, how did you do that, Joe? That's pretty amazing. You got more votes than the first.
That man's more of a genius than I thought, apparently, right? Which I don't think highly of him. But, I mean, if that truly happened, man, that. Wow.
It's a miracle.
Right? I mean, yeah, legitimate. I mean, I don't know if that was really a miracle. Miracle's typically a good thing.
Yeah. Not a curse.
Yeah, not a curse. More of a curse. Look at gas prices. I mean...
There's horrible memes like, God sent Joe Biden. Why? Did he run out of locusts?
Yeah, exactly.
It's just such
Right. Locusts weren't bad enough? Right. Oh, man. No, it's...
Mean.
Frogs weren't bad enough? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, oh my goodness. No, it's horrible, but... Oh,
and then he also talks about how more Republicans do, this is what Biden said, reject extreme MAGA ideology than accept it. So basically, there's more Republicans that disagree with this MAGA ideology than those who believe it. You said just a bit ago, you tend to think it's 30-60.
Yeah.
I don't know. I almost think it's either 50-50 or...
You mean 30-70? 30-70?
I'm sorry, 30-60. I almost did. I almost did AOC math there for a second.
I was like, wait a minute, wait.
Thank you for being my Ben Shapiro.
Yeah, sorry about that. I was like, wait.
No, thank you for being my Ben Shapiro. You're not catcalling me. So.
Yeah, so, wait a minute. That's 90. Where's the other 10%?
There's a comedian with a great bit who is like, I've heard, he was a guy, I've heard that the daughter will get her math skills from the father, so that's a disaster, but the way I see it, she's got a 40-40 chance of passing. So I love that joke. And I'm bad at math, so I love that joke.
I am too, don't worry.
So, no, but you caught it. You're better at math than I am. So 30-60. So 30-70. I tend to think it might be 50-50 or even 70-30. At this point, here's the thing. At this point, I think that you can't look at who voted for him the first time in the primary, for example, and count it as a comparable standard to now, I think there's a ton of people now that are on the Trump train that were not at first. So are there more people that are in the MAGA ideology than he thinks? Yeah. It could be 70, like it's not 30-70. It could be 70-30, or it could be more like 50-50. I don't know. I think there's plenty of people on both sides that'll say, I'm so scared of what the other side will do that I'll vote for whoever the nominee is. And then there's some that will actually go out in the primary and do something about it.
Right.
It depends on record. It depends on also depends on what's currently going on in the news, which is not how it should be. It should be principle. It should be litmus tests.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, too much of it is how scared do I feel.
And also, I don't buy that. I not what you just said as far as what. No, as far as what Biden said, as far as, majority of people or Republicans reject the MAGA ideology. I honestly don't believe that. Because, really the ideology was, hey, make America great again.
Literally.
Yeah, literally. It's in the name. Make America great again, because...
Don't expect Democrats to do second grade reading.
Yeah, right. But...
It's too hard.
Yeah.
Especially for Joe Biden.
Right. But, no, it's... again, they might have disagreed with how... I, within myself, am one of those. I kind of disagreed how Trump handled certain things unprofessionally or whatever, but was he right on a lot of things, even though he handled it unprofessionally? Yeah. Did he handle it the way I thought? No. But...
Well, sometimes.
He got it.
Sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes he did, but, most of the time, let's be honest, no. But no, that's not really an ideology. That's just the man's... what were we expecting when we got Donald Trump? I'm just saying. You're fired. Yeah. No. But my whole thing is, I don't think a lot of people or a lot of Republicans do reject that ideology, because they do want secure borders. They do want less government. They do want less taxes.
Yes.
What are we talking about when he's saying ideology, the ideology, what is he talking about? Because it's like, no, really, we don't. We don't even classify ourselves as MAGA.
And they do want rule of law. They want, if you delete 33,000 emails.
Right. We want our justice system fixed. We want to be able to trust our processes. We want to... I don't understand where he's getting that.
No.
Oh, all right. Again, I'd really like to ask him, I wish that was a Q&A type thing of, what did you mean by that?
Right. Press conference or something.
Well, what did you mean when you said, that majority of Republicans reject the MAGA ideology? Because I don't feel they do, even if they don't classify themselves as MAGA, because even myself, I don't classify myself as MAGA again.
Same with me.
But, I don't reject the idea per se, because again, like I said, I completely agree with border security.
Sure.
That's what I'm trying to say. Gracious. Sure. Border security, lower taxes, less government. I agree with those 100%. I disagreed with Obama's policies and everything, and I think he destroyed the country 100%, quite a bit. Mm-hmm. So that is why, I was for the ideology, not necessarily. But, I don't believe that majority of Republicans do reject that ideology. They might, again, reject a person or whatever as far as, not Trump, but they'll go for whoever, But, no, majority of Republicans, I don't believe, reject it. And, some of these people, I also believe, just didn't like Trump so much that they were just willing to vote for. They don't like Biden, but they're just so terrified of Trump another term, or just they fed into the media, whatever. I
was gonna say
I don't like him so much, even though I was talking to my uncle actually a few days ago, and he lives he's between California and Vegas. He's got a house in both. Great guy. Two very hard places to live.
Yeah. No kidding.
Oh boy, especially California. But anyway, he was saying that one of his buddies said that, I agree with everything that Trump says. I agree on border security, just down the list. But I just cannot get behind Trump. And it's like, so he voted for Biden. And even still, even now, that same thing. And it's like, how? Like, at this point, even though I don't agree with the way the man handled certain things, again, even some things, even if they were funny, it's like, you still shouldn't have said it that way, whatever. Even if I disagreed, I don't care. I just want this man out at this point.
Well, not only that, you care, but not enough to hold your vote back, basically.
Right, exactly. So it's like some of these people are just, it's like, man, they just hate Trump that much. It's not even they hate his ideas. So that statement just simply isn't really true.
There was a great quote, I forget the name of the pastor, but he was on Fox talking to a liberal, and he basically said the left wants Trump to fail more than they want America to succeed.
Right.
And I really think there's a ton of that. Not for every single one on the left, but for a lot of people.
I think a lot, I think majority of the left wants, likes that. Would they want to see Trump fail more than they want America to succeed. I mean, I honestly don't.
Or the reverse, they'd rather America fail than Trump succeed. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Because I have yet to see Democrats that are moderate now, as far as like, and even willing to stand up and say, hey, this is stupid. You know,
and the couple that have a price tag, and
they back down.
We've learned
we've learned that. I mean, even Manchin with this bill is like, oh wow, he's actually not going to go. He's going to go against this thing. Go figure.
Well, and to be honest, I think God had a hand in that and saying for a while you're going to have a part where you're not going to go along with it.
Yeah.
And now God has purposes for allowing it through. Again, God has purposes for all this. You agree with that. The other thing that was also very interesting, we'll wrap up on this because we don't have much longer, keeping this shorter than an hour, is that one thing that was interesting was Biden, again, as we previously mentioned, said no violence, no violence. Violence is not a political tool or a political method, something like that.
Yeah.
And got some applause. And secondly, he said, this is a nation that honors our Constitution, and got applause. Now, ironic because they don't actually follow that. They don't actually cherish the American founding. They don't actually believe that or walk that out in any meaningful way. It's just a lip service. It's a byword. But at least rhetorically, that was done. But it's funny too because it's like the it's rich to hear him say that. And then apparently he gave a speech pretty recently as well, where he again brought up the Second Amendment is useless because you're not going to face the military, which has F-15s. And it's like, well, that's not what the founding fathers were thinking. You don't cherish the American founding. You don't cherish the Constitution. So frankly, I don't want to hear it in your speeches. It's a bunch of hogwash. So with that said, give you the last word before we wrap up.
No, I mean, I agree with what you were saying, and to the point of people that might ask, you know, what do we do? Because I mean, this honestly was pretty scary, as far as, you know, how you could see some of this going. Hopefully it doesn't, but you know, speeches like this have tended in history to go way further.
The words precede the action.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, did you notice in the speech he also ended up calling out one guy with a bullhorn?
Yes.
Yeah.
What was that about? Was someone out there with a bullhorn?
Yeah, he was out there with a bullhorn.
I didn't even hear. Actually, I do remember that now. Yeah. I kept hearing a noise, and I was being like, what in the world is that?
It was a Let's Go Brandon thing.
I got you. I kept hearing a noise, and I was like, what is that about? So he called it a bullhorn. I call it an air horn. That's why I was confused. I was like, a bullhorn is like what you see Alex Jones out with. Hillary Clinton is a war criminal, stuff like that.
Yeah, but the air horn is the thing that just makes the noise, and then the bullhorn is the thing.
Megaphone.
You know, you speak. Yeah, megaphone.
That's what I call it.
Yeah. But that right now, you know, in my opinion, and I've told you this off of the podcast too, is I believe that the left does want violence on the MAGA side or just the Republican side to say these people are the reason, these vermin, these whatever are bad, et cetera, et cetera. So we cannot play into that hand. Now, as far as what that guy did and just, you know, causing and, you know, just saying, hey,
ruckus.
Let's go, Brandon. Yeah. You know, that is what you can do. You know, what can we do? Make your voices heard, but no violence. Again, act within your rights, no violence. And yeah.
And there is a line as well, like, would I go with a horn and do that during Biden's speech? I do think there's a time where you do take the high road, where you say we're not going to stoop to their level, where what Nathan, my co-host, says often to me, but not at me, but generally speaking, you can't out-left the left.
Yeah.
So I think that there is a time where you should not do something. You should be the bigger person.
Right, of course.
And you, of course, believe that. So all this to say, just for the viewers and listeners, there are times to do things, but you got to make a judgment call. When is it okay?
Right, you
when
got to
is
have
it not
discernment,
okay?
of course. Right,
Discernment.
yeah.
That's a good way to put it.
Right, you've got to have discernment of when to do things and when not to do things. And, again, make your voices heard. Talk amongst your friends. If your group of friends, if you've got a certain ideology about things, talk to your friends about it. Like maybe, if you're one of those MAGA Republicans or whatever, and you're hanging around a bunch of, Biden Democrats, then, make your voices heard. Do that, respectfully, of course. Again, you don't start calling names, don't play the name calling game, whatever. But, again, making your voice heard is not a bad thing on either side.
Right.
On either side. I encourage both sides to do that, even though I disagree with most of the other side. But again, make your voices heard if you disagree with something. But you don't have to go out with a bullhorn or whatever all the time. But sometimes you do.
But like we say, he does have his right to do that.
Right, exactly. He acted within his rights. He wasn't committing any violence. Sure, okay. Disturbing the speech, okay, whatever. But last thing I would want to say for myself is, what did you think when you saw the backdrop and everything of the whole speech?
Have you seen V for Vendetta?
Oh, mine was, man, this looks like Star Wars.
That too. Actually, that came into my mind, but my second was V for Vendetta.
I thought Emperor Palpatine, because it's the old man giving this speech. What was that? Was that episode 3 or episode 2 where he's giving that speech amongst the?
I think it's
the
3.
Senate. It was 3. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was 3. That's how that felt.
It actually might have been the end of 2.
Might have been. I think it was 2.
Neither one of us are big enough Star Wars nerds.
Yeah, I know, right?
There's someone typing out right now,
Yeah. I remember, I'm 99% sure it's 2, because I like the 1, 2, and 3 a lot. I'm pretty sure it was 2.
They're pretty good.
But yeah, no, that's immediately what I thought. You got the old angry guy. And so,
that Chancellor Sutler in V for Vendetta is an old angry guy too.
Yeah, this is true. Also, I didn't. Sorry, I know I said this is gonna be the last thing I said, but I also didn't like the use of the military or the Marines. And again, I know that we've used Marines and other things before, but this was not one of those scenarios that this was kind of like a show of force. I didn't like that. I'm not the only one that holds those type of views. You can also go to like Dan Bongino. He gives more of a reasoning behind it. So if any of y'all want to listen to Dan Bongino, go to him.
Interesting.
I didn't really like the whole kind of show of force type thing.
It didn't really enter my mind because I guess it's just like, oh, he's the president.
Well, yeah.
He can do that. I don't really have that to me. Also, it was just a weird thing. Like, why stand in a dark room? And
The
I'm honestly
whole thing was weird.
very impressed he stayed awake.
Yeah, this is true, especially being that dark. Shoot.
That's what I was gonna say.
I mean, it did look like an easy place to sleep. I'll give them that. Yeah.
So anyway, we appreciate you tuning in and thank you for listening. And please hit us up in the comment section with what you think about the speech and what you think about this episode, and give us some suggestions and some feedback, even if you disagree.